Grab your big book, your pen, your highlighter, and notepad and get ready to hear and apply some of the solution from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous through the experience, strength, and hope of Nikki M. To have a question addressed in a future episode of Noodle It Out with Nikki, please send an email to noodlewithnikki@gmail.com, and Nikki is spelled with 2 Ks. To get a more interactive experience with Nikki as she noodles out life and recovery questions using the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, you can get a link to her weekly Noodle It Out with Nikki meeting held live on Zoom every Monday morning at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. The information to that meeting is in the show notes of this podcast. God morning, God afternoon, and God evening to all. My name is Justin B., and I am a son of an all-powerful and all-loving God and a qualifying addict of multiple fellowships, living in the miracle of recovery. And I'm here with the intelligent agent, spearhead of God's ever-advancing creation, and my co-host, Nikki M. Nikki, please take a minute and tell us a little bit about yourself this morning.
Hi, Justin. And yes, I like to every day remind myself that I am an intelligent agent, spearhead of God's ever-advancing creation. And a little bit about myself is that I'm in the grip of a progressive disease. It's called the disease of alcoholism, which my big book says is a family disease. So it can go for generations and generations if I don't do the work to get a daily reprieve from this madness in my mind. And I'm just so excited to be here. I just came off the Noodle meeting. We had 160 souls seeking God on a Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am beyond blessed in this moment.
Beautiful. Thank you, Nikki. And thank you for your service in doing these things that really touch, the individual, and hopefully the individual in a group that radiates from the individual out into the group. And beautiful thing. All right. So I'm grateful to be the steward of the RICO 12 family of recovery resources. And among those are the RICO 12 weekly speaker meeting podcast, RICO 12 shares podcast, a few more projects that are in the making. In addition to this Noodle It Out with Nikki M, Big Book Roundtable, just several things happening. And it's really miraculous and really exciting to see. And really the goal of RICO 12 is to educate addicts of all varieties of the commonality of all addictions, as well as a common solution that can work for virtually all. We subscribe to the idea in the Big Book of Alcoholics that, quote, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. We also have the goal of reducing or eliminating the stigma of shame that accompanies addictions of all kinds. We hope to educate many so that they understand that addiction is a disease that can be treated and from which a person can live a happy, joyous, free, and productive life if they follow a few simple but not easy directions. RICO 12 is a self-supporting service and appreciates donations to help us continue to share this message of hope with as many as can have the opportunity to hear it. This project, called Noodle It Out with Nikki M, is an exercise and deep dive into finding solutions to questions, issues, and things we encounter in everyday life in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We will bring a couple of questions from our own lives, from the lives of people we work with in recovery, and from the listening audience to the Big Book. Get your Big Book out and get ready to run around it and make some notes. All right, Nikki, today we are going to jump into a couple of things that, frankly and honestly, they're character defects of mine and character defects of so many that I work with. And that's avoidance, procrastination, complacency. A question that I have for you, Nikki, is, and I'm just going to word this in a way that it's coming from me because, I want to address this with me as much as with anybody else. I have so many things on my plate. I have so many things that I want to do, that I need to do, that are there scheduled. And yet I find myself going to the easiest path, trying to skate my way through it, put my head in the sand and avoid it. Bust out some big book wisdom here and put me and others on a path that can help us in that process.
Okay, Justin. Yes, of course. No one wants to face their fears. Isn't that what this is about? I mean, it's really about facing your fears. And this is all defects of character, as you said. Myself, I have this too. I have it in my sloth, lazy, procrastination, literally like the deadly sin of being, I think it is sloth. I think that is one of the deadly sins, and so, and of course, the big book is just a condensed version of everything that we know out there, like, gluttony, sloth, all these things that you could do a short character defect list right here, people. I suffer from the 7 deadly sins right there. Let's just go there. That's real simple. If you don't know, I need to do an inventory right here. 7 deadly sins is what I suffer from. So what does it say? It says now. That's a lot. We go out and repair the damage we done. It doesn't say wait. Let me find that page, because I want to remember. These are the exact instructions in the big book. Oh God, what page is it? I might have to come back to that. It does say now, fast. Next, we launched in a vigorous course of action. Oh, Nikki, that's for my 4th step. No, next we launched. And that is on page, I guess I'm half asleep here. That is on page 63 or 64. I mean, the vigorous course of action. Let's just start there. Next, we launched. How can you avoid anything if that's the instruction? That means that's why what other page do we need? When it comes down to it, God will show you instantly what direction you need to follow. So if you are avoiding, you're procrastinating, you're getting complacent, it says, next we launched. Oh, it's on page 63. Vigorous course of action. And I like to Google words. Like, what is vigorous? Then Google the word action, because action is the opposite of avoidance and procrastination. And then there's other key words, why you're avoiding and procrastinating. Let's get to the deepness. And you haven't taken a sincere position. We can just park it on page 63. If you take a sincere, it also asks us wholeheartedly position, that's what we have to do here. And then it's like, it says here, we abandon ourselves. And if you abandon yourself to this design for living, everybody, everyone says, well, I'm working on my step 3. It's a decision. Every day you have to make it. Every day you have to make a decision that, let's go deep here. You have to smash the idea that you can be lazy, or you don't get to do that anymore. Remember on page 68, it says, you are in the world to play the role God assigns. See, if you came into the 12-step rooms, God has assigned you a role of being into action. There's a whole chapter called Into Action. So it doesn't say into avoidance. It doesn't say into procrastination or compliance. And a lot of the time here, Justin, this falls into people pleasing, isn't it? That's dishonest. You're avoiding something because you want validation. You want to make people happy. How about this, everybody? People in the back. No is a full sentence. Is your schedule suiting the needs of people pleasing, or is it really serving a purpose to serve God's people? Because running around with a chicken like your head cut off is not what the big book asks us to do. Justin, there's a book in Al-Anon. It's called When I Got Busy, I Got Better. And I like to rephrase that to the big book. When I got busy, I started blotting out the consciousness of my existence with running around, avoiding. You understand, like, this is serious stuff. Because sometimes, what are your intentions? Are your intentions to people please? Are you doing something that really has purpose, intent, is helpful? Because it's not helpful to people please. And Justin, it's certainly not helpful to do for others what they can do for themselves. It says, when we make the approach, many take up their beds and walk again. It doesn't say we pick up the bed for them. So a lot of the time it's like, are you willing? This is a step 6 problem. Are you willing? What's your willingness? It says, we were entirely ready to let God remove these defects of character. Nikki, I'm praying. I'm asking God to remove these defects of character, says the sponsee, says the suffering fellow. Well, then sponsors, what do we say? What does that look like? Well, I'm praying, Nikki. Okay, but praying, faith without works is dead. So this goes real deep. I like to take the spiritual principles and read that step 6 again. We're entirely ready to let active promptness, zeal, remove my defective character. See, if I'm lazy and avoiding, I need to get active. So I need to have God remove. How about humility? I know nothing. I better follow this book. Will remove this defective character. How about I better trust this process called the big book, the 12 steps, the sponsor who has what I want so I can get active and zealous and stop procrastinating. How about I get gratitude? That I have a book, a phone. The obsession of gratitude will put me into getting active and zealous about my book so I don't avoid things anymore. How about getting unselfish and helpful? See, interchange the word God with the spiritual principles, which is actually something tangible, and attach an action to this. I'm praying, Nikki, I'm praying. Sir, you've been praying for 10 years in the rooms and you're not getting any better. What action are you applying to these principles into action? So next we launched vigorous course of action. Now, doesn't say tomorrow. It's now.
Yeah. So quick question on that and follow up, Nikki, and you hit on this a few times in there, but you talked about the Al-Anon book, When I Got Busy, I Got Better, whatever the phraseology is in that. And then you said, hey, no is a complete sentence. People pleasing is causing problems. And I've heard you talk about keeping a tight schedule and really staying busy. Now, how do I delineate the difference in there of staying busy, keeping a tight schedule and going at things, but not making that my solution? How do I delineate that and make a difference there?
Okay, page 102 says, my job is to be of maximum, keyword, helpfulness to others. Let's just stop there because it has a comma, but we won't read the rest of the sentence. So it says, do not hesitate to go anywhere, blah, blah, blah. But my job, see, I signed up to give my life to God, to be a servant of this, of the God of my understanding. And so am I of page 102? Am I of maximum helpfulness, or am I just being busy? And then how about this? Today we prepare for a better tomorrow is what my sponsor told me. So what does that look like? Today, because it says upon awakening, the minute I wake up, step 11, this is a step 11 thing too. The upon awakening, the minute I open my eyes, I think about the 24 hours ahead. I consider my plans for the day. Now, page 19 tells me my plans for the day. Let's go there, everybody. It says, a much more important demonstration of our principles, my work for the day, a demonstration of my principles, page 19, lies before us in our number 1 respective homes. That's my family. So I need to do an important demonstration upon awakening, the 24 hours ahead, an important demonstration. What do I need to do around my house? I need to make my bed. I need to plan meals. I need, all these things I need to do, pay the bills, all these things, be responsible. Number 2, I have to be fully self-supporting. That's a tradition, occupation. See, I have to demonstrate these principles. I have to be fully self-supporting. In my country, they have a thing called ODSP, Ontario Disability Assistance Program. That's not fully self-supporting. And a lot of people but I'm sober, Nikki. But I'm sober. You're living off government's help. You are a man and a woman with an able mind. I've got mental illness. The book says it will solve all our problems. Are you really self-supporting? And then it goes into all of our affairs, which is the newcomer and serving God's people, page 77. We're still on page 19. So we have to practice these things. Number 1, your family. Number 2, your job. And number 3, the newcomer, in that order. So we're back to page 86 where it says, upon awakening, we consider our plans for the day. Those are my plans. So I plan my work for the day, and then sometimes I'll execute the plan tomorrow too. You understand, like, I need to do this. I need to do this. This is called, we set things on paper. Oh, but Nikki, that's for a step 4 instruction. No, sir, that's for life. No, madam, that is, sorry, my door is opening. The Noodle studio is in my bedroom. Justin, I need the full sound crew. Anyway, and I'm hopefully getting a new phone. If you're hearing hiccups in Noodle, that's because not my sound system. Not Justin's, that's mine. But back to the point at hand is that every morning we have to wake up and start doing the things we don't want to do, right? That's what we have to do. We have to stop doing the things we want to do. So busy is literally saying yes when you want to say no, doing things that aren't important, of maximum helpfulness. Nikki, maximum helpfulness is not running around. Maximum helpfulness is my Tuesdays. The most important things are auntie. That's it. I serve my 94-year-old auntie every Tuesday. And so that's my most important. Everything else around that can go. I don't know where it can go. That's my priority. Now, do I put other things in? I have a sponsee in the morning when I get up. I go to Dr. Josh, my chiropractor. Sometimes I'll squeeze another phone call in. Maybe at night I'll go to a meeting, or maybe at night I'll have a life and have dinner with friends after seeing in. But the priority is my job that day is auntie. Everything else is just kind of noise. So really laser focus on how you're of maximum helpfulness. Wednesdays, I fast all day. I've got a tight schedule on literally phone call sponsoring all day on Wednesdays. I don't leave my bedroom, my house, I should say, because there's food. There's all these crazy things out there, like smells that make me hungry. And I remember I did a talk, See Where Religious People Are Right. They're disciplined. Page 88. We let God discipline us. We let the spiritual principles discipline us in the way we just outlined. Does that make sense, Justin?
Yeah, it does. And you bring up a couple of things that I think we could do a whole episode on, but I'd like to touch on one of them. You talked a little bit about what I heard was setting boundaries. Hey, this is where I'm going to be, and other things are not going to interfere with that. Today is where that's going to be, and we set boundaries. Another thing that came to mind was triggers, and I think we'll hit on that one here in this next episode that we do. But let's stick with boundaries. Talk a little bit about what the Big Book says about setting boundaries, about setting priorities and sticking to those no matter what. Or what are your thoughts on boundaries, I guess?
Oh, can I say this on the podcast? Boundaries are bullshit. Number one, they're not even in what page? And this is my Al-Anon and codependence. And those are also the sober, dry drunks. My boundaries, what boundaries? See, God gave us free will. People can say, do, be what they like. Yesterday, prime example, experience, strength, and hope. I had a family party. My cousin said, you can't say that. It was something political. And I said, well, I'm in my home. I can say whatever I want. She can't. That's playing God. Let's go deeper. Is it page 60 or 62? Quit playing God, 61. It's in the 60s, 60 to 63, you must know. It says, quit playing God on page 62. It didn't work. So when you're telling someone what to say, those are my boundaries. I'm sorry, madam, I can do whatever I want to do. That makes sense. People can do and say whatever. Those are my boundaries. No, I'm sorry. People can do and say, because guess what you're doing when you're talking about boundaries? Anyone who's listening, page 60. Number one, you're armed with the facts, because any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. It says any life. It doesn't say just the addict. It doesn't say just the alcoholic. It says any life. That's the entire human race if they're not being directed by a power greater than themselves. So number one, I'm armed with that facts. And then number two, it says each person is like an actor. Well, you can't say that to me. I'm sorry. I'll say whatever I want. Is it helpful? That's the other thing, is what I'm saying, doing, speaking helpful. And so the actor who wants to run the whole show, we're on the bottom of page 60. This person is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, people's words, people's actions. If only they will say, do what I like. That's what it says. If only Nikki's arrangements would stay put, line out. They never will stay put. People have free will. They can do and say whatever they like. How I respond, how I react is a totally different story, Justin, because it says if only people would do as Nikki wished, the show would be great. Page 61, line out. That is a codependence dream world. That is a codependence fantasy dream world. Oh, and put out, I'm a fantasy addict, because people will never do and say what I want. Otherwise, I'm God. Like, you got to go deep with this. We could sit here for days on this. Boundaries. Oh, boundaries. My government, Justin, can't tell me what to do. They can't force me. My government can say whatever they want to say, isn't it? But do I have to get it? My government told me I could not get on a plane, train, hospital during COVID. I remain unvaccinated today. And so they can say whatever they want to me. How do I respond and react? Do you want to know how I responded? I sponsored. I stayed in my bedroom. I took care of 94-year-old auntie. She wasn't 94 at the time. This is 3 years ago. I mean, remember, the world stopped. Who's going to feed? Who's going to help auntie? So there we go. Right? So people can do what they want. Let's go deeper and I'll let you get in there. I see you ready to say something. Love and tolerance is our code. See, I entered a spirit world. My next function is to, page 84, to grow in effectiveness and understanding. So I need to understand, I'm armed with the facts. Any life run on self-will is hardly a success. I need to grow in effectiveness and understanding now moving forward with my cousin. I know I cannot ever speak politics because I'm like, I can say what I want. No, you can't, Nikki. You entered into God's world. You're the face of God. You're the face of the big book for people. So how are you going to react to your cousin? When she got offended, I said, I love you, and I'm going to change my words around you. That's it. I have to change, not her. Boundaries. Don't tell me what to do. You can tell me anything. How do I respond in a loving, kinding, patient, loving? I'm rolling all these words into one. Loving, kind, patient, tolerant way. I relinquish my need to be right. I let God demonstrate through me what God would have me be. That's in the book too.
Yeah, and I thank you, Nikki. I think we could probably dive on this topic here, like you said, for a while, and we may set aside a future episode just on boundaries and the difference between having a schedule and boundaries and the difference between standing up for my rights and respecting and loving others and everything. I think there's a lot there that can be dived deep on to clarify things for me and for others. So anyways, thank you so much, Nikki. We're going to close up this episode here. Thanks to all our listening audience. If you have questions that you'd like to ask and pose for a future episode, please send an email to noodlewithnikki@gmail.com. Nikki spelled with 2 Ks. And we will answer any of those questions that come up in future episodes. That email address will also be in the show notes of the podcast, as well as every other RICO 12 project that's going on will be in there. And we're really grateful for your listenership. If you find value in this, please rate and review this podcast, these conversations. Let your recovery network know about them. Anyways, thanks for coming and listening. Keep coming back. It works when I work it, so work it. You are